Well guys, it's been a few months since this Joose has been in the shop, and now it's time to upgrade this Jeep finally. We've got a 5.7 underneath the hood, a lift kit and wheels and tires, but still these dingy plastic front and rear bumpers. Today, that is all going to change, and we're going to swap these bumpers out with something that we have never done on the channel before. Alright guys, so we're starting with the rear bumper, as there is some body trimming that needs to occur for this bumper. In reality, it was just 8 bolts and a couple wiring harnesses underneath that we had to remove. So right now we're just finishing that up, and we're going to get started on the rear and tackle that first. Just pull it out slow. There you go. Yep. Alright guys, so we actually went with a Tomahawk rear bumper from Motobuilt. We ordered this from dirtroadcred.com, and our friends over at Motobuilt said, why don't you guys throw this on? This really helps the rear end of the Gladiator, for those guys that go out wheeling, to really eliminate the low-hanging fruit of the back of the Gladiator. Now on a stock bumper, you're going to hang down approximately 5.5, even further inches from this bottom line. Now this Gladiator rear bumper is going to solve that problem. It's going to get us nice and tight, nice and tucked up in there, and you can either choose an optional skid plate or a hitch if you still want to do some recovery with the back end. This is going to have welded in D-ring mounts, light provisions on the back for reverse lights, and basically everything that you need to get it installed here. We had ours powder coated locally in this jet black, and then we actually did an accent color, which we'll show once we get some of the bumper pieces on. You're able to relocate the hitch wiring on here and a lot of other features, but one thing you do have to do with this, which is probably why we started it first, is you got to do some cutting. And I'm not afraid to cut up brand new Jeeps, but this Jeep's a year old, so maybe I am a little scared of it. No, we got to cut the lower portion of the tub here in order to get this nice and tucked. But I think the difference that this already makes, like seeing how much clearance is here, I believe this bumper almost goes up to the bottom of the tailgate. So we've got to cut actually 5 and I believe 1/4 inches off. So we got our body saw, and we're going to double check a lot of times before we cut, and then we're going to get this buzzed off, sand it a little bit, and touch it up, and we should have a bumper on momentarily. Now, it didn't look too bad to do. The cutting is probably the most nerve-wracking part. I watched the install video of the rest of the bumper, and it's pretty much bolt together. You got frame brackets, you've got side tie-in pieces, and the only other thing we got to watch is the AMW exhaust on that side, so I'm curious on how the brackets are going to play with that, but what's some more cutting? You know, we just modify everything at this point. Now guys, this is one of the modification heavy bumpers. Motobuilt sells a ton of bumpers for the JL, the JT, both front and rear, that do not require any modification. In fact, we installed a crusher front bumper on our giveaway Gladiator, and all of these bumpers that we're talking about, not only today, but all sorts of a wide variety, as well as other armor, fender flares, and all sorts of goodies are available right on dirtroadcred.com. And if you pick up anything, it's the same price as buying it from Motobuilt, except you're going to get entries into our 2026 Mojave Vice giveaway Hemi Gladiator. Now that's going to end August 31st, 2026, so it's coming up soon here. And if you want to go on the website, you can pick up anything on there, including all of these Motobuilt goodies that we're showing today, plus easier ones if you don't want to hack up the back of your Jeep. There's no purchase necessary. See the official rules for all of those terms and conditions. But I think, yeah, like I said, this one, Ryan wanted to make sure we said that this is not like all of their bumpers. Like you can see, we've got a lot of other bumpers laid out here. This is a Crusher HD front bumper. No modifications. That's for my dad's Jeep right here. That's a rear Crusher bumper, and it just bolts on. So, but me being some sort of way, we have to cut something. So now is the fun part where you measure 14 times, cut once. Obviously, we've got a lot of this wiring disconnected from behind here. Whenever you're cutting into a body panel, it's not only important that everything on the outside is protected like this, but anything on the inside. Like this wire basically ran right behind here, and you don't want to be cutting a nice clean cut. And oh, there goes the taillight. So we're measure this up. We're going to measure a little bit lower and cut just around this body line over here. I don't think we're going to have to touch the fenders too much, but there is a little bit of structure underneath there. Worst case scenario, we pop the bottom parts of this fender off. We have new clips, and we'll just cut it right along here. But yeah, you see all this? All this has to go. There's structure around here, and then just this structure kind of tucking in behind here. But if you feel behind here, it's not crazy structural. We're just gonna have to see. This is gonna be, it's gonna be interesting, but you're gonna get the bumper now that much higher. So it didn't go too bad. I would say I was probably a little bit too ambitious. The outside pieces, to actually get the outside of the body off, is very simple, but it's this substructure that I have laying right over here. This was kind of the fight. So you can see that this is, see that, Ryan? It's actually layered 1, 2, 3 layers at some points. So you've got a lot of sheet metal here, and the problem was is I was trying to cut at a lot of different places. I drilled out some of these spot welds that were over here, so this kind of sat like this. And then the other thing I was having in is if you come over and look at this body line here, Ryan, what I'll probably end up doing is I'll cut this to match here. I was trying to kind of cut it like here to match, but then if we were cutting from that side, it ended up being too high when I was down an inch, like 3/8 lower. So you see that where I was cutting? But you were trying to match up over here. So, and I'm obviously gonna go back and take the grinder, and I'll probably actually trim that up a little bit, and I'll take the sander and sand everything. I'm gonna sand this edge. Actually, what I might do is combine this and just make that line go right to the bottom here. But you can see, like, this was the fight, was some of the substructure here, because that body saw is great for thin metal. We actually had to break out the bimetal sawzall just because we're cutting through 3 layers of steel there. So body saws, you're gonna wanna pick one of those up. We got it at Harbor Freight, it's 30 bucks plus blades. That'll do the body nice, but a sawzall to get through 3 layers. Just leave it like that. Huh? Yeah, put a toolbox right here. All right, guys, so we obviously pulled off the painter's tape. I don't think I did too bad of a job on cutting that line there. Look at that line there. And we got a little bit of touch-up stuff, too. We actually got some little 3M that's going to just clean up the edge, and we're going to touch it up with paint. But now's the time where we start to bolt on the brackets for the Motobilt bumper, the tie-in brackets, and then we'll get the bumper there, and then we'll put these side wing pieces. But let's talk about what we did for accent colors. So we actually have a couple bumpers laid out here. We've got front bumpers, rear bumpers. Some are for my dad's Jeep, but this is going to be the accent color that we went with for the Jeep. Now, this is trying to match the bronze on the wheels there, and I think they did a good job at it. I think this is as close as you could without actually getting it done from fuel off-road, but we are using these. These are going to be the boat slides here. There's tie-ins, and then we do have the optional hitch. I don't think we're going to put the hitch on right now. We can do it kind of back and forth if you want to use it for recovery or just have a hitch in. But then in the meantime, we're going to be able to use this skid plate right here that covers it up. So this has got countersink bolts, and that's going to basically sit up nice and tucked. And the reason we went with the two-tone is to not only tie the wheels in, but just give it a little bit more aggressive look there. Now, this is going to go together hopefully pretty smooth. That was pretty much the last step, was to just finish that off. But they do say after you have that frame or the body cut like that, you might have to sand it up a little bit if the boat slides don't fit. So I'm hoping they fit. We're going to try everything out. And then when we know it fits, then I'll use touch-up paint, touch up any raw surfaces, put a little bit of an edge trim on there, and get everything done. But we also, while you're inside, I added a set of reverse lights in here. So we got a set of reverse lights, and those are going to have red running light, or we're going to, I think, do red brake light and turn signals. So when you do the turn signals, we're going to tie those in. Everyone's been asking. We do still have our trailer. Remember our tie-in that we made? Yeah. We still have some. Well, we're trying to find a really good manufacturer here in the States for them, but we're going to use those on both sides. That'll give us the turn signal, brake light, and the reverse light functionality of both of those lights. These are originally designed for a Baja Designs S2, but we don't have Baja Designs, so we found what we have in the shelf, and we're going to use them. All right, so we're going to slide this up over the frame rail. And then the other thing we need to grab at the same time, I'm going to put one bolt in to hold it, just so it kind of holds up into place. But then you have these boat sliders here that these actually have to go on the outside of this, and then they tie into the bottom of the boat slide. So we're going to put that one on, try and get this one started at the same time, maybe. What do you think? Maybe? Okay, so yeah, if we ever want to put the hitch on, the hitch uses the factory bolts down here. But for right now, we're just going to go for the non-hitch look and see how that looks. And then if we want to in the future, we can get that tightened up. But what we're doing now is, honest to goodness, just snugging this thing up, because look, we want to have a little bit of play in this here, front to back, so that way we can get the bolts from this side into the back crusher bumper. I am going to snug up these bolts up here, but not, once again, not anything crazy. We're just going to get them tightened up. Okay. This is pretty light, so all right, let me give you this end. Got it? I think our cut line's good though. Almost wrecked the whole GoPro shot. Just ruined the whole thing. You're gonna need some help for this. It's an awkward thing to get in. But look at the... Yeah, it looks like it... Compared to what it was, like having that giant plastic black, and that's not even, like, you still have... It's still gonna come out like that. So... It looks good. You're gonna get plenty of clearance. I think we cut enough off the bed, too, and enough for me to be able to slip some trim underneath there and touch it up. So what we have to do now is we're gonna get the entire bumper attached. There's 8 bolts and washers that come in from the backside. We'll get that fully attached, at least kind of snugged up, and then we'll go around and get everything. I think we'll get everything tightened up underneath, get that pulled up first, and then pull the bumper in with it. And then the boat sliders, we got this bracket, that bracket will get tightened up, and that'll line up. I'm kind of seeing, like, I watched one mild install video because you have to tie in that bolt slider, or the boat slider, here, 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 and here. So it's got to kind of like, you can't have one like tortoned all the way up and then it won't go onto that. You have to kind of, it's almost loose the whole time. So, but luckily Motobuilt does all pressed in threaded nuts too. So these are pressed in threaded nuts. These are pressed in threaded nuts. So you're not like trying to reach behind there and have a nut. You just put the bolt up in through. So it should go pretty smooth. All right, guys, so we got the Joose pulled out here in the grass, and we wanted to kind of show off what we finished up on the rear bumper. And I also thought it was kind of a cool idea to park it out here next to the giveaway Gladiator to show you the sheer amount of clearance difference. I know this is a smaller lift than a 2.5 here, but the sheer amount of clearance that you are gaining from this Tomahawk rear bumper is absolutely insane. Now, obviously, we touched up a couple things off camera. So we added a set of running lights on the back that actually go with our stoplight and our turn signals on either side. You can see them flashing right now. And then we also just picked up a license plate mount that goes on a D-ring. Motobuilt sells one that actually goes on the back tailgate here. We were thinking about maybe drilling into the center, but I think the D-ring mounted one looks great. And then if you want to remove it when you go on the trails, just take a 3/4 inch ratchet on both sides and it pops right off. The other thing that we talked about too is now kind of seeing the body lines on here and sheer clearance on the sides. We've got everything tightened up. Everything is torqued down underneath of this. And I think the bronze actually looks pretty good out here. There was a little bit of mix up at the powder coat shop. When you drop off loads of powder coat, sometimes parts go in the wrong color pile. I personally think what we probably should have done, Brian, is maybe just like well, we did box it up pretty good. Some things happen, right? Like it happens, you know, and I don't think it looks bad. Our friends at LME Designs, which we sell on our website, well, they're actually going to be doing the full wrap or the full livery on this, and they're going to send us a bronze vinyl book so they can match this up. And I'm thinking we just flow the bronze right along the side. Now, one thing I know you guys, like I already mentioned, you're going to grill in the comments is the fact that the lower portion of this fender flare sticks down. We have a fix for that. We can't get everything done in one video. We're crazy busy all over the place. So we do have some fenders that we're going to be on order, as well as some new side steps and a ton of other cool parts for this rig. But right now, we're super thrilled with how this thing turned out. The sheer difference between this Gladiator and this on the rear bumper, it's crazy. And the cool thing is too, is all the whole tailgate still drops. So everything will still drop here, clear everything. But the amount of clearance gained by the Tomahawk is probably worth the body cutting. Now, if you're a little bit nervous to cut your tub, that would be the biggest thing I would say. Ryan, that was the scary part. That was really it though. After you have that done, the rest of it goes on pretty simple. We also had the D-rings powder coated in bronze too, but being the fact that we kind of moved the plate back here, we're probably gonna throw the D-rings up front to tie in the color a little bit, and then vice versa, we can throw them on the back if we need to use it in this corner. This thing though is ungodly beefy. How about it, Ryan? We used a jack inside there just to kind of level up the lines of it. And just by jacking up this corner in the front, all the way up by the fender flare, we could pick up the whole Jeep. Like literally by this thing. So I don't think we're gonna have any issues if we drop off on this and really put it through its paces. This is about a 3-day ordeal here just because we're doing manufacturing, production, everything else inside. It's time to pull this in. We got everything for the front bumper all the way painted, prepped, and ready to go. Let's throw that on, get a winch on, and see how it looks.
All right, what do you think about these factory bumpers, man?
Well, apparently your dad likes them. Now he's like, no, I never said that. I hate them. I think we're actually, this one is, I think this one's going to go to a good friend of ours because he needs to trade his Jeep back in and he's going to take off his bumper. But I can't stand these things. I really can't. And if it was up to me and someone wasn't getting this, I would throw it straight into the trash can. But yeah, these things have to go. It's still like, you look at this Jeep, it's got a 5.7, the hood, this, that, wheels, tires, lift, and then it's like, really? You know what I mean? The stubby steel bumpers I love. I think those are great, but this thing is just, it's just junk. All right, we can now pull it off. And right in the trash, if we weren't giving it away to one of our friends. All right, guys, so now it is time for the front bumper. Now, what did we choose? This is the Moto-Built Crusher HD front bumper. Now, what makes the HD bumper so special is not only the fact that there are so many modular options that you can make with this bumper, but the fact that we actually chose the fabricated bull bar. Now, we have to mount it onto here. They actually include the template to actually drill 3 holes and get this thing mounted. But the big difference between the Crusher HD and the normal Moto-Built Crusher is the fact that this bumper has a 2-piece design. You get the standard bumper that goes on to mount your winch, and then you have an optional skid plate that goes with it. On the standard Crusher, it's the bumper and skid plate all welded together in one piece. Now, what we like about this bumper is traditionally on this one, you can add on a set of lights down here in the bottom section. On the other Crusher, you can't. And then the fact that this is a little bit more modular. So you can either choose to chop these lower frame horns off and not add a skid plate to gather extra clearance underneath. Or in our case, we got the bumper, we got the fabricated hoop, and we've got the skid plate. All right, guys, so here we're kind of mocking up the bar just to make sure that the template we used is correct and in the right spot, but you kind of have to trust that and just put it in the right spot, measure a few times. And then you can see on the bottom of this bar, it actually has the threaded in nuts that are pressed in, which is really nice. But you'll want to do this process before we mount it onto the Jeep. But here you can also see the bronze that was chosen. This is the same bronze that was in the rear bumper. It looks good on here. It's going to give us a little bit of a two-tone, and then we will be adding lights onto the top. But if we added everything in one video, this video would be 2 hours long. So let's we mocking this up into place, just making sure that it looks like it is going in the right location. Let's get these holes punched and drilled. I think I'm going to go just a hair bigger than the actual bolt hole size, just to make sure that if my punch was off a little bit, but we should be good with that. We're going to go with a 29/64, and then we're going to use a starter bit to start all these. All right, guys, so we got a Badland Apex 12,000-pound winch that we're going to be installing onto the Crusher bumper. We have one of these, the exact same winch on Ryan's two-door, on a Crusher bumper as well, and it's worked great for us over the years. You have to do some light assembly here on the table, but we do have good luck with Harbor Freight when it comes to the winches. Also, the nice fact is that any Harbor Freight in the country, if you buy a warranty for it, you can walk in. Well, I know it's a little bit to unbolt a winch, but you can get a replacement if you have a warranty. So we have a couple other Harbor Freight items we're going to be testing. We had to do some light assembly here on the table, but let's throw this on and see how it fits. Go ahead. Go ahead. Line me up on the sides. That's fine. I can get that through later. All right, guys, got the bumper on here. We got our Badland winch. We ran the cable already through here. We do have to still do a couple things. We're gonna get the positive and negative cables run for the winch up to the battery, and then we just have a little bit of finishing touches. Got to tighten up a couple things and add on the last piece, which is the Crusher HD skid plate. That is also powder coated in this bronze. So once we get that on, but I think it's lunchtime, we'll get that on, we'll show it off outside and see how this thing all turned out with the front bumper done, with the rear bumper done. But right away, this thing looks sick. Well, we have pulled the Joose outside and it is officially loose. This thing is done right now with the bumpers, and boy, what a transformation this has made to the Jeep. We've been running, or Ryan's been driving this Jeep for that's going on 8 months now with stock plastic front and rear bumpers. That's pretty much a sin when it comes down to our channel. We always swap things out. We had a lot going on and we had a lot of decisions to make on these bumpers. Now, like I said in the intro of this video, the rear bumper is something that we have never handled on this channel before, actually cutting the tub of the Jeep. Now, with the 392, we ran Moto-Built all over, drilled into the side of the tub and attached everything, but actually cutting the body panels and making sure that you do it right is a little bit nerve-wracking. We got it done. I think it turned out absolutely fantastic. And the added advantage of having that much clearance in the back is that when this thing drops off of rocks and goes out places where we're going to drop it onto the back end, it's going to clear much easier. Now, we could have gone with a bobbed bed, but that is very expensive and a whole heck of a lot more amount of work. But we're really happy with how that turned out on the back end. I'm really excited too about the accented pieces on here. Now, I will say in this video that you guys are probably going to be like, Why did the skid plate get bronze accents, especially in the front and back, especially when it's harder to touch up bronze? Our powder coat shop is about 10 minutes from us, and they can always fix anything if it gets too destroyed. But I'm really happy with how the accented colors came along on here. We moved the D-rings from the back up to the front. You can see they're paint matched on here. We are missing lights in here. We got to order some little Tyree lights that we can fit in here. But one of the coolest things about this entire video is that this front bumper, that rear bumper, as well as a whole host of all sorts of motobuild parts are available at dirtroadcred.com, and you can pick them up for your Jeep. And you saw just how quickly the front bumper goes on. After you bolt everything into place, it slips on and it is good to go. A Badland 12,000 pound winch, which we got wired up to the battery and the quick disconnect. And this Jeep is in its next transformation phase. I'm really excited to see what else we do to this. And what I'd like to hear in the comments is, what do you think of the accent colors on here, and what do you think of the bumpers? I know a lot of people are going to say that was a little bit too much work in the back end, but we wanted to try something new on the channel, show you guys how to do it, and just kind of explore what we can actually do to modify these Jeeps. If we kept with the exact same recipe every single Jeep, it would start to get a little bit boring. So we do this kind of stuff because not only do we want these bumpers on this rig, but we also wanted to show it off to you guys. And really excited about how this turned out. A lot of work that goes into these bumpers, but the final phase of when you get these on is so rewarding. This is going to handle anything you throw at it, made out of all USA made steel. And thank you to our friends at MotoBuild, not only for supporting the channel, but also allowing us to sell their products on our website. So check that out. Until next time, we got to hop in this rig and hit the airport. My name's Matt, Ryan's behind the camera, and we want you to get out there and earn yours.